Today we're going to work on our Reaper Bones Dragon, and I'm going to show you 3 things all beginners should be practicing. First off, we're going to grab a little Bloodstone brown, little Mephiston red. I'm going to show you a quick red workup, and this is with the airbrush. This might not be super beginner, but all airbrush artists should begin practicing with the airbrush and utilizing airbrush flow improver from Vallejo. This is how I like to do it. I like to pour it in the brush first, get a little bed going. I don't care about dropper bottles or anything. I basically just open up my paints. I've got a perfect GW paintbrush for this. Just dab it in there. I'm excessive on the flow improver side. We're gonna just stir it up in there, and I like to use brown as a base for all my reds when I do my workup. I'm gonna show you the backflow gangster gumbo technique right there. Percolate the pot. We're gonna be using this Bones Dragon, and it says you don't need to prime it, so we're not gonna prime it. We're going to lay down several thin coats with this Bloodstone brown. You can use any brown you want. Practically doesn't matter. Dark is good, mid-tones, doesn't matter. Here it is. That's about 2-3 thin coats. Building it up, making them look as best. Going to let it dry. We're going to go for brown 2. We're going to put a little bit more flow improver in the pot, a little bit more Bloodstone brown, and we're going to add Mephiston red, about 50-50. But hey man, this ain't science. It don't really matter. Just as long as you marry the 2 colors together. I like to see a link between the brown and the red. So we're keeping it real thin. We got a little flow improver in there. We're gonna gangster gumbo that pot. Get it nice and mixed up. Several thin coats. We're coming from the top down. Notice I'm not afraid to hold the model entirely upside down. I want predominantly the red to be more on the top here, the Zenthiel. Top down highlighting. But you don't have to overthink it. You can just spray it all red. It doesn't matter. I like to try to work transitions. Say I didn't even know we were gonna paint those wings blue yet. So I'm still like doing cool little feathered transitions on the reds. I'm staying real patient. And I'd say being patient is the name of the game. We're gonna switch it out. Evil Sun Scarlet. We're gonna mix that in a pot. We're gonna leave a little of that dirty paint water in the pot. That's one of my techniques. We dumped it, but we let some of it sit in there. A little bit more flow improver. We're gonna grab our proprietary GW brush, stir in a little bit of that Evil Sun Scarlet, and we're gonna just amp it up. Gonna take it to 11 with a super red. This is one of my favorite colors that GW makes. We're just being subtle, building it up. Thin coats. We're using about 90% air, 10% paint. We're being patient. Build it up. I want that red to explode, but I want there to be some of that brown intact. I just think it's an interesting transition. All right. Wild Rider red. This is kind of an orange in it, so this is a great natural highlight, and we like to punch it up a little bit before we use the wash technique. Now, if you're a beginner, a lot of this airbrushing might be a lot for you, but we've got many videos in our archives on beginners airbrushing or secret airbrushing hacks 101. This is basically just implementing everything we've talked about for 5 years. Now we've got all that red popping off, highlighted up. Transitions are looking fresh. Now you can see all the scales. We're going to want to make sure there's some contrast there. And my favorite thing to get contrast with is the wash. I like to use Army Painter washes. I think they're the best in the game. Red tone. This is basically red wash. We're going to use dark tone, which is also basically black wash. So I want to make a nice dark red. But also I want to make that black wash not so black, so a little bit of purple tone. Now the concept here is contrast. We're gonna make the dark areas darker. Now I want there to be no staining whatsoever. So the quick shade mixing medium mixed in the pot, I just threw them all in there about equal parts. We're gonna stir it up and we're gonna go nuts. We're using the stippling technique, which is kind of a dabbing technique instead of strokes. We're trying to force that wash into the in-between areas of all those scales. Like I said, contrast. We're gonna make the dark areas darker. We're trying not to overdo it by getting it all up in the scales business. We don't want to make it all dark, even though the wash is going to be smart enough to drain down with gravity and not stain too much of the surface. We're trying to mitigate that with our dabbing technique. However, we're establishing solid contrast. Now there's 2 ways to do contrast, right? With this in mind, make the dark areas darker, but also make the bright areas brighter. So we're going to pull out a nice dry brush. This is a nice round tip brush. This is slowfusegaming.com. We're going to use Evil Sun Scarlet and Wild Rider Red, 2 of the last reds we used. And we're going to mix them up. We're going to get a paper towel out, help dry it up, hence dry brush technique. We're going to stir them together, get a nice mid-tone. Well, no matter what we do, it's going to be brighter than all that wash we just did. So we're going to dry it out, and we're going to focus on top-down dry brushing. We're focusing on very light brush pressure, and we're trying to not go back and forth and scrub it in. We're trying to go top-down, top-down, and I'm going real fast, okay? But that's because I've done it a million times. But this is all I'm really doing right here. This is going to help build that highlight toward the top. It's going to catch the edges of those scales, and we're going to be patient. We're going to do it over and over and over again. We're not going to get hard scrubbing it in there. We're not going to put too much paint on the brush. We're going to just keep it thin, keep it methodical, and do multiple coats. And then once we feel like we've done all we can, we're going to sneak a little Troll Slayer orange into the mix to brighten it up. We're going to make the bright areas even brighter, take it to 11. So like I said, with dry brushing, the name of the game is patience. You don't want to overdo it because then it'll get real dusty. But if you keep it subtle, it won't get real dusty on you. So here we go. Same thing we just did. Very light brush pressure, moving fast. Top down, top down, top down. Now in some of the areas like on his legs, you can't always go top down. You might have to go left, right. But try not to just scrub it in there. Try to focus on a nice parallel. You know, even if you have to go perpendicular previous highlight, you don't want to go scribbity-scrubbity. That's the technical term. We're going to sneak a little yellow in the pot to get a final flame highlight. We want it to be very sharp. We're going to come in, same thing we've done before, but we're going to focus a little bit more on center mass, like top of his thigh, his forearms right there, his face. We're not going to go over everything. We're going to be very subtle. We're going to focus on some of those areas. We don't want to like suddenly transform him into a yellow dragon. He's going to be a red dragon with some solid highlights. So making it brighter, yellow is almost always a good move for this situation. All right, here we go. I'm going to take a little of that mix, put it on a random paintbrush, and I'm going to skirt in, do a couple of edge highlights. I'm holding the wing in such a way that I can go left and right very easily and just trace the ridges of those wing fingers. The reason I'm doing this now is because I know I'm going to cut in blue later. So this will just be easy because cutting in the blue, that's going to be easy because it's so big and there's almost no detail. So if I mess up, this Exile blue right here will fix it by essentially being able to erase it. We're going to quickly go in with a nice brush. We're using a Baesing, another slowfusegaming.com brush, and we're just going to quickly, but also thinly, cut in this blue. And the reason I like blue for this model is blue is a cool color, red is a warm color, so it's another type of contrast. Contrast is the name of the game. Now this is the base blue. I'm not going to take that blue to 11 and make it electric in this video. I'm showing you how to keep your paints thin. I'm using plenty of water, and in some cases flow aid or medium, and I'm keeping this blue real thin. Now it's going to be a little streaky and it's going to be a little transparent. You're going to be able to see the red poking through. That's fine. It's always better to do more thin coats than one thick coat. If you're a beginner painter, I cannot stress this enough. This is a technique you want to get in the habit of doing. You want to exercise a little patience. Having a thin, smooth base coat is going to change the game. You see, as I move through and it's starting to dry, you can see straight through that red and see some, you can see straight through the blue and see some of that red. It's almost purple. Very streaky. Now let me show you the magic of several thin coats right here. Here's the second coat, even thinner than the first coat, but now it's covered. It's done. Game over. That's it. Look how easy it's stuck to that. So rather than force it with one thick coat, two thin coats did it faster and better. And now that we have all these details cut in, we are ready to start taking them to 11, start introducing some advanced techniques. So this has been the beginner's guide to laying down some of these techniques: dry brushing, washing, glazing. If you have any more questions, definitely feel free to hit me up on social media. And of course, guys, check me out on Patreon if you want to support me. Play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.